have all of you do a huge favor for me and stand up. I know, a millennial asking you to do something too early in the morning. Okay, I want you to high five at least one other person at your table and say, you look just like a millennial. All right, you can sit down. Now, I have the opportunity to work with organizations and leaders around the world to help them connect to the next generation. And inevitably, I will be asked by someone one of two questions. Number one, what is a millennial? And number two, it comes soon after usually. Oh, so what's wrong with you guys? So today we're going to be talking about how do you reach and retain a new and a young generation. Now, if I had all day to spend with you, I would share with you the 4 strategies that we've worked on over the last 10 years of how to reach and retain a new generation. But I don't have time to go over everything. I'm going to give you this morning 2 specific strategies and 2 mistakes that you're probably making when reaching the next generation. And this afternoon, I'm going to be sharing with you the full strategies, all 4 steps. So if this is something, this idea of how do you reach a new generation is something that is on your heart, it's something that you and your team talk about or maybe even complain about, I want to personally invite you to join me in my session this afternoon as we go deep into how do you reach a new and a young generation. Now, I'll have organizations come to me and they say, okay, Gabrielle, we get it. You help people reach millennials who, they do a terrible job. But we're great, right? These are the organizations who tell me, oh, we're really cool with millennials. They love us. We have a bring your mom to work day, and we have, like an emotional support puppy on staff, and, kombucha on tap. And this side's like, what's kombucha? Right. Ask a millennial, they'll tell you all about it, right? There's this idea that if you check all of these boxes, then you're somehow going to make yourself millennial friendly. If you wear skinny enough jeans and have crazy enough hair, then somehow we're going to think that you're relatable to us. But the truth is, relatability is very different than relevance. My generation doesn't need you to relate to us. We need you to lead us and lead with us. That's what this generation is really seeking to do. And I've actually found the organizations who think that they're doing it the best are the organizations who actually need what I'm about to share with you the most. So I'm going to share with you first, probably the most important step to reach the next generation, and it's that people are powered by purpose. Now, that's a true statement whether you're 22 or 62. Everyone wants to know that what they do matters. There's something inside of us that we are created with this question of context. Why me? Why does my work matter? Why do I exist? Why does it need to be done by Tuesday, right? And millennials just happen to ask why probably better than any other generation. Now, usually when we ask why isn't there an app for this, right? That's usually what it is that we're wondering about. But when you reach the next generation, you have to realize that these questions that we're asking aren't to disturb or to disrupt. They're invitations for you to engage with us. So let's just say if I were to ask you, what are you doing over the weekend? And if you were to say, probably spending time with my family, or, I've got some plans to maybe get some work done on the house. By the way, you never say nothing. Right? I'm just giving you some free advice. Never say, oh, I'm totally free, what's up? Because inevitably, you will help some random guy named Gary move. You're just inevitably going to end up doing that. And you're standing in his kitchen, putting his family heirlooms in a box, and you're like, this is beautiful chinaware. Honey, what's Gary's last name? Right? You just have no idea where it's going to go. But if I were to ask you, what are you doing this weekend? You said, oh, I don't know, I'm kind of free. And I said, great. Can you help me build a house? You would probably say no, right? Or you would say, we don't really say no, we're too polite, right, and too Christian. So we usually say, oh, that is a wonderful thing that you're doing. I just don't feel called to that right now, right? I am going to pray for you. I've got my prayer team, they're already on it, right? Or, I got a bad back, it's not going to work out, my back, or something, right? You would come up with something. But if I were to say, hey, I don't know if you have a couple hours this weekend. Some of us are getting together, and there's this wounded vet. He lost both of his legs in Afghanistan. He doesn't have any family right now, and we're just going to help build him a shed. Do you have a couple hours to help us? What would you guys say? Okay, you're all terrible people, by the way. I'm gonna teach on the Sermon on the Mount here in a moment, have an altar call. I don't know what we're doing here, right? I hope you would say, of course, I would love to be able to help. Or my son is free, right? Delegate. You guys are good at that, right? Of course you would, because context matters. I told you the why before I engaged with you, and the what or the how. My generation is so desperate to find our purpose, we're looking at the world around us. Now, many people will tell me, oh, well, Gabrielle, millennials don't really need us. They have so much information, right? And of course we do. We have Google, and we have Siri, and we have constant access to information. But just because we're drowning in information does not mean that we have a surplus of wisdom or knowledge. I tell people all the time, we don't need other generations for information, because we have technology for that. But what we are desperate for is interpretation and application. We get to work with leaders around the world and help them understand the next generation. And one of the groups we were working with is a major grocery store chain. If I said the name, you would know it. And we were meeting at their headquarters, certifying some of their top HR executives. And in the meeting, there was a young man named Pete. Now, one of the things we love to do with people who we get to work with is help them discover their purpose in context of the mission of the organization. So we started talking to Pete, and we helped him boil down this one moment in his life where he started to realize why he did what he did. And Pete was walking back from class to his dorm when he opened up the door of his dorm, and he found his roommate with a gun barrel stuck to the back of his throat, getting ready to take his own life. Pete ran over, pulled the gun out, started talking to his friend, and spent the next weeks and months helping his friend get a job, get his feet back underneath him, and start to find meaning in life again. It was in that moment that Pete realized that he recognized that work can really do something for people, that work can help people find meaning in community. And so that's why he went into HR, because he wanted to make sure that people had an incredible experience at work. Pete didn't have that moment until we asked him that deep question. And that's the responsibility and opportunity each of you have as leaders in this room, to start to ask questions about a next generation and help them understand what it is that they're doing and why that context matters to the work that they do. Now, I get it, in the mission-oriented field and charities and nonprofits, we think we have this down. It's one of the biggest mistakes, in fact, I see leaders make, is that they assume because they have a mission, that mission is shared by everyone else in their team. That grocery chain had a mission. It was to serve customers and do great work. But that mission wasn't Pete's mission. So take time to find the personal mission of the people inside of your team. The second strategy I want to share with you is that people move forward from failure. My generation was taught how to dream, but not how to fail. We were told from a very young age that we can do anything that we want and we can be anything that we want. And then we grew up and graduated college, and most of us have moved out from your guys' house. And guess what? We listened, right? And now we're coming in and we're working for you, and we think we can do anything that we want and be anything that you want. And so those once ambitious thoughts are now seen as entitlement in the eyes of the people who've raised us. One of my favorite quotes, it stings a little bit, but get ready for it. One of my favorite quotes is by a parenting expert from the 50s, and he said, "We often criticize the next generation as if we had nothing to do with creating them." Awkward, right? We look at the next generation and say, how did they get this way? How in the world did this happen, without realizing that my generation was raised in an era that has helped shape the way that we see the world. But my friends, we have to learn how to fail. If we don't, we'll never know how to stand and fight. So I recently started taking Krav Maga. Does anyone know what Krav Maga is? It's like this really intense Israeli fighting thing. My friends are like, why are you into this? I have this secret desire to be like an extra in an Avenger movie. So, in case there's an opportunity to do my own stunts, I want to be prepared. But when you take Krav Maga, the first thing that they teach you is how to what? You're like, kill someone. No, that's the second thing they teach you. It's how to fall. By the way, I came here early this morning trying to see if I could practice falling on this stage. It was not going to work out. I was like, can I maybe? No, it's not going to work. They teach you how to fall because falling is integrated with fighting, because they know in any martial arts that inevitably you're going to fall. But your life can literally depend on how quickly you get back up and start to fight again. But many of us aren't allowing the next generation to fail. We still keep them on our phone bills, and we let them stay with us longer than they should, and we say it's okay when they fail, or when they try something, you're like, oh, it didn't really work out, rather than pushing us to the extreme to see how far we can really go. Or in the leadership sense, we put them in charge of these little tiny projects rather than giving them the budget and the confidence to actually fail big. Because heaven forbid, they might, spend some money, or worse, embarrass us. My generation needs to have the confidence that we know that you have our back and that you're standing with us. The second biggest mistake I see leaders make, and they make it every single day, is that they project their own experience on the next generation. They say, it took me 10 years to get to this position. It took me 5 tries. I didn't go on vacation with my family for 16 years. And here they are coming in thinking that they can do it at age 25, 26, maybe 30. My friends, we simply don't have enough time to wait for that system to take back up for my generation to go through. What no one will tell you when it comes to generations is that 10,000 baby boomers are turning the age of 65 every single day here in America. And so that means we have a massive generation getting ready to retire and move on. But what no one realizes is that Generation X, do I have any Xers in the room? Woo woo, right? Gen X is 1/3 the size of the baby boomer population. So what does that mean? It means we simply don't have enough Generation Xers to fill the leadership positions that are being left by a retiring generation. That means many of those positions are either going to go unfilled or poorly filled. So we need to start reaching into a younger generation, my generation, and raising them up to stand and to fight and to be prepared. But we have to do that by helping them first and foremost find their purpose, individual of themselves, and secondly, teach them how to fail. I have a lot of organizations who think that they're getting the millennial thing right. But in reality, a lot of the folks that are either on their team or people that they're reaching out to are really just old men and young men's bodies. Guys, we have to go after the ones that don't look like us. And I get it, working with youth is sticky and it can be awkward and uncomfortable. But if your millennials aren't asking why, I'll often tell folks that we work with, get ready, because you may not have a millennial at the end of the year for you to be able to answer that question. This generation is ready to move on, we're ready to engage, and we're ready to engage now. We're not the leaders of tomorrow, because when you say that we're the leaders of tomorrow, you diminish the influence that we have now. God has given us a platform to speak into our generation, and we want to work with you, we want to partner with you, we want to develop a world with you. Now I want you to take out your phones. Each of you take out your phones. I know they're not far away. Don't be like, I would never have my phone out while there's a speaker on stage. It's okay, we can see you guys, right? Take out your phones, and I want you to text. I want to give you a free resource just to take with your team and actually implement this. So text the checklist, 2 words, the checklist, to 345-345. The checklist, text it 345-345. And I want to send you a free resource for you to take back with your team and actually implement this in a deeper level. Now, the truth is that my generation needs your generation. It's not about my generation being the generation that's going to save us all. It's not about your generation preserving a legacy. So I think some leaders look at the next generation as the insurance policy on their own life, saying, well, if I just help that next generation walk out what it is that God's called me to. Now, I don't know many of you. I'd love to. But I do know you enough to know that your calling that is on your life is far too big for you to implement and fulfill in your own lifetime. The Bible is based off of generations: Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Moses raised up Joshua, Elijah raised up Elisha, David raised up Solomon. And in every single mentoring relationship in the Bible, the younger person did it very differently than the guy who raised him up. My friends, we have to be okay with the next generation taking our vision, our ministry, our organization, and doing it very differently than us, because that's what it's going to look like. We have to let go. We cannot be in the business of duplication. We must be in the business of discipleship. One of the favorite things I love to do with folks when I speak to leaders like yourself is to close with an apology. Now, I want to honor you, the parents, the grandparents in the room, the sisters, the brothers, for what it is that you've done for my generation, for standing in the gap, for making sacrifices, for staying up all night praying and doing the hard work, even if my generation didn't recognize it. I want to apologize for not giving you the honor that you deserve and for disrespecting anything that you've done in the past, and frankly, for letting communication and preferences and even technology get in the way of having the most fulfilled relationship that many of us will ever have. So on behalf of my generation, I want to apologize, and I want to invite you in to not just work with us, to not just lead with us, but to partner with us. Thank you.